Thursday, June 8th. We have a quorum, so I'll call this board meeting of the New Ulm Public Library to order. First item is the approval of the agenda, which everyone should have in front of them. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, additions, edits, Chris?
No.
On your end? Anybody
Thank
else?
you.
Okay, hearing none, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Now approve the minutes from the May 11th, 2017 Library Board meeting, which everyone has in their packets, and hopefully everyone has had a chance to read through them. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from May 11th.
And I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions, discussion, corrections? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next up, elevator update, repair update, and we have Elwood Zabel from the city here to provide us with that update.
Elwood Zabel, building official. Yes, Chris asked me to come in and see if you had any questions or anything, but we're looking at updating the elevator at the library, the 73 edition, or library building. The reason we're looking at updating that, they do not make repair parts for the elevator anymore. So we're trying to head off any downtime on the elevator. The lead time on getting the parts right now is anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to get the elevator parts and peripheral items to go in with it. And if we go ahead with it, it will be down 3 to 4 weeks for the installation of the new parts. We have got a couple quotes on the repair. One is from Minnesota Elevator Incorporated, and theirs runs $64,813, and that is just for the mechanical equipment of the elevator. That's not doing anything with the car, the face of the elevator, the doors. That's just coming in with the new pump and reservoir, operators, switches, just complete operation of the car itself. The other quote was from ThyssenKrupp Elevator, and their price for that part of it is $75,627.
So that's an apples to apples. They're both doing the
That would be
same.
just the equipment to update the equipment that is out of date.
We're using the same car, are we not?
Correct. We are using the same car. There are options to update the car if we want to go with that.
Okay.
A cab interior upgrade from the second quote is $12,455 for an upgrade. And then there's other related work for finishing off the front of the doors, some ventilation for the elevator mechanical room. That comes in at $17,633, and some electrical work in that also. I am looking into the ventilation of the mechanical rooms and see if we can get by without doing that. Neither one, or we're looking at doing the same thing here at City Hall. It's the same age elevator, same manufacturer, so we have the same problem here. Right now, the elevator rooms do not have ventilation, but there is stated in the quote that if we can keep the elevator room between 55 and 90 degrees, we don't have to cut into the elevator machine room itself. And I've got that out, an engineer looking at that, taking a heat load and stuff of the elevator room and surrounding areas and see if we can leave it the way it is.
So is your recommendation then that we just do the minimum at replacing the parts that are no longer available?
That's up to you guys what you want to do with that. The car is is dated. I mean, it's the original car. Updating it, I don't know if that's gonna, I mean, aesthetically, yeah, it's gonna look newer, nicer. I don't know if they want to do that right away. That's something that could be done at a later date, probably at a little more cost. I don't have that quotes from MEI on that one yet, and some of the other mechanical ends of it, or the electrical ends of it, but I'm just looking at the main quote. We're about 10,000, 11,000, a little shy of what the other quote came in at.
And then in terms of code update and stuff like that, everything will be up to code then? There's no other additional stuff that needs to be done as part of this?
That's what they're telling me, is that with their bids the way they are, that would bring it up to code.
And you say the city is looking at the same, basically,
Correct.
same expense here?
Actually, I think ours is, it's either like 1,000 less or 1,000 more. Yeah.
Very similar when you're talking. I mean, it sounded like when I was just throwing the numbers up, if we do everything, you're talking about $100,000. That's with maybe a little short of that. It was 64 and 17, and I forgot what the other one was.
Well,
Well, for the car update.
the total price from
Okay, so we're at 93 then.
Vicerup was 105.17. That would be for them. MEI don't have all those figures in. When they came down and did their proposal, they brought in a contractor and electrician and got all the numbers right away. We're still working on the MEI one. That was just the elevator update. But I've got, like I said, people out looking at it and seeing what we can do.
Would there be any reason to go ahead with similar to this building here? So that the two kind of match?
As in the car itself, or
Whatever you guys do here, would it be advisable to do that over there or whatever?
Do we get any price breaks by doing twofer?
Yeah,
nope,
okay.
nope, because the bid from the second bidder here, again, it was very comparable from City Hall to the library. It was over that $100,000 mark for doing this one here also.
So what I'm saying is if we did both at the same time, there's no,
Nope.
economies of scale kind of thing.
Nope.
The car is still serviceable, Elwood?
Depends on what breaks on the car.
Yeah.
I know when they were looking at it, they were on top of the car, pulled out a switch. The switch broke. That switch is no longer available. So they fixed it the best they can. When the inspector came a month later, he noticed the switch was broke. Still operable, but it's broke. So yeah, it's kind of running on borrowed time right now on what's there.
Is it safe?
Yeah, the elevator inspector comes through every 3 months and does an inspection on it.
He comes every month for that elevator.
He comes every month for years. Okay. So yeah, they're up to code as much as they can be, and they're safe.
Do you have any anticipated date you're going to receive a bid estimate on the car from MEI?
Well, the car itself from MEI is $64,813. It's the peripherals, the electrician, the mechanical, to see what we need to do on that end of it. So car for car, MEI is at 64, and Thiesrup is at 75, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 75.
Well, what was the 12,000?
That's for the car update. The 75 and the 64 is just for the mechanical parts of the car. The
Okay.
pump, the oil reservoir, hydraulic oil reservoir, switches. They would change out the switches in the car. You get a whole new communication system with the car, the switches, the buttons, that kind of stuff. The car itself would stay the same if you chose not to do the update.
So the 12,000 is just an aesthetic
Correct.
thing?
Yes.
Okay.
What prompts the inspector to come every month to the library?
That is set up through the city, and he comes to Broadway House every month as well. And it's the age of the elevator that we've made that determination that we would like him to come every month. He used to inspect both of our elevators every month, And then in the last year or two, he's now spread that out so he inspects our newer elevator once every 3 months.
If we went with the $64,000 bid from MEI, would he still come, the inspector, every month? Or would then he be on a 3-month cycle?
Then I think it would revert back to a 3-month cycle.
It's in the neighborhood of $120 a month for him to inspect. Now, keep in mind that the finance director has indicated that Fund 290, which is a city building reserve fund, is paying for this. However, the aesthetic car, that may be what would come to the library to pay, to come out of fund balance. But the numbers, the 64,000 or the 75,000, that is coming out of Fund 290. It is not coming out of library funds.
Aren't we obligated for the lower bid?
We haven't, I would have to check. Going through it, looking at it, it's pretty much the same bid to bid. But I'd have to check and see if there's a significant, something that's missing, I suppose we wouldn't have to go with the lower bid, but I would say if it's apple for apple, that we would have to entertain the lower bid.
If upon your review it is apple for apple, well, I think we have, our choice is clear that we go with the low bid then. And if that's the case, then I would think that the board would want to go ahead and authorize that.
Well, as to the aesthetics and fixing that, when I use an elevator, I want it to get me from one floor to the other, but I don't know about the public. Public might want it to look better, so
When do we need to know, Chris, on what,
I'm going to defer to Elwood on that question.
Yeah, it says they're good. The quotes are good for 30 days. We're getting on the tail end of that, but I don't foresee them, if we, waited a while, that they would increase that much. As we went, I'd gotten just some rough numbers from MEI in January of 16, and they took a little bit of a jump. I think it was $4,000 or $5,000 from then till we got these, and we received these. Oh, where's the date on there?
well, as we see it though, Chris, you're saying that we're talking about the $12,000 upgrade part here, our payment for that of it. And if the stuff isn't available, the car's got to be made or updated. So what we should be just talking about our end of it then, I think.
And I haven't confirmed with the finance director. If you do decide you want a new car, whether that would be something that Fund 290 would handle. I don't know about that because we are over what was anticipated for the cost of what's needed to be done with the elevator.
Correct.
so what's the city gonna do? Are they just doing the base, equipment then, or are they updating more?
I haven't brought it in front of city council
Okay.
yet. Like I said, I'm trying to get all the numbers the same so we can compare the two totally for car change out and everything, or car update and the electrical end of it.
Okay.
Well, as I see it, I think maybe we should wait till the city gets there, get it all done, and I think we should, my own opinion is basically go along with what they're doing. So if they're gonna go with updates, then I think we should, and if they're not, I don't know what the reason for it is, so.
Well, they may not know for during the 30 days, would they? I mean,
No, it's.
So then you run the risk of a higher bid then, right?
Yeah, like I said, talking with the gentleman, it didn't sound like there was anything in the near future of a price increase. Seemed like those usually come around the first of the year is when they look at that and bump up their prices.
To give you any timetable, like if we say it's, we're ready to go by the 1st of July, they would come in within a month or,
It's 4 to 8 weeks to build the equipment,
okay.
and then once they get it, depends on their time schedule, and then it's 3 to 4 weeks to install it.
So
So it would
upwards
be-
of a couple months.
Correct, yeah. We'd be looking fall, late fall, early winter, probably before it would get
And then
completed.
the other one theoretically is usable until they basically get the car here to start the.
Correct,
and
yep.
then we're going, yeah.
Is there any urgency to act on initiating the repairs?
I don't think there's any emergency on it. If it goes down, I guess that makes our decision for us easier.
Yeah?
It'll have to be done. We're just trying to be proactive on it and take care of it before that happens.
Chris, would you be amenable to us tabling this until we get a full estimate on all of the car and other issues from MEI, and then have a chance to hear what the city council decides to do on the elevator in City Hall?
Absolutely. We're in the busiest time of our year. I really don't want to take down the elevator here during the summer. So I think as long, it's been going fine, and yeah, I think it'd be nice to hear what the city council would like to do. And also, if I will find out now, what I'm hearing from you is that you are interested in looking at a new car and talk with the finance director about the financing on that piece of it.
But it also depends if the city decides to update their car as well, then, you know, it would make sense for us to do it as well.
Yep.
When will this be brought before the city council?
Well, I'm hoping to have some figures here, either for the next meeting or the first meeting in July.
When we meet next in July, then we should have some resolution what the city just decided to do.
I'll add it to the agenda.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Elwood then? All right,
All
thanks.
right? Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elwood.
Thank you, Elwood.
All right, now we'll move on to the May 2017 financial reports and summary. Chris?
That starts on page 6. We're 41.1% through this year. Our budget is about 36.7% expended. Nothing out of the ordinary. We did receive our annual rent from New Ulm Community Access Television. Expenses are tracking as expected. You'll notice in subscriptions and memberships that amount has increased in the amount spent because we paid our annual Ancestry Library Edition subscription. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, if we don't have any, then we'll move on to the librarian's report.
That begins on page 14. The city manager and the coordinator for Mankato Area Adult Basic Education signed the services agreement that you approved last month. So beginning July 1st, 2017, we'll have an adult basic education staff member working out of the library 2 to 3 times a week with clients working on their GED and college prep courses. I haven't spoken with the coordinator yet, but we'll get those 2 filing cabinets moved into our storage area and have an area set up for the staff person. She's been continuing to be at the library on Monday evenings from 5 to 7 p.m. teaching basic computer classes and has had 3 to 4 students every week. She's in the middle of her 7-week rotation, and then that will start over once the 7 weeks is completed. So we're looking forward to having her there more often. The summer reading program display in the glass case and the mobiles in the children's room are a lot of fun, and that's because of our acquisitions librarian, Betty Roeger. She's outdone herself once again with her creativity. And our Lisa Sieve, our reference librarian, attended a Better Together conference. Now that's with adult basic education and workforce. She went up to the cities on May 15th to hear about the collaboration between adult educators, libraries, and workforce staff to promote digital literacy. It's really interesting to hear stories about people looking for work and being overwhelmed by the digital literacy that's required in today's environment. So workforce and adult basic education and public libraries are working at discovering ways to work together to help bridge that gap and provide training opportunities. So young people going back to the workforce, all ages can come up against hurdles in actually finding work because of those digital literacy gaps. Our children's librarian, Jan Caveney, has been doing a lot of visits in May. She had 7 first grade classes come to the library, and she went out to a number of schools. She's really connected with the schools in our community to get the word out about the summer reading program. And today I checked with her, and there are about 525 young people registered for the summer reading program. The library hosted a town hall with Senator Gary Dames and Representative Paul Torkelson on May 31st. NewCat was able to film that, and about 40 people attended, so we were really happy to be able to make that a possibility. Our Assistant Library Director, April Eide, is working with the World War I Remembrance Day event at Turner Hall. We're really just helping to promote the program, and she got the word out on Facebook and on our website. And I met last Friday with the other Brown County Public Library directors, and Holly went with us. We met in Sleepy Eye to talk about how we can proactively approach the county commissioners for the funding meeting that happens in August. So we kind of strategized a little bit, and our rep, Sharon Lang from Comfrey, will be talking to the Brown County Library Board this coming Monday at 7 p.m. in Comfrey to talk a little bit about some ideas that we have just to get the word out about what libraries do and what we might request of the county commissioners come August when they discuss their 2018 budget. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, you want to cover any of the statistics then before we move on?
I can, and you last month had indicated you would like the TDS executive director to visit in August, and she has accepted that invitation. So Ann Hokinson will be here in August. Our statistics show that we're up a little bit in our userful public computer statistics. I do have access now to wireless counts in the building, so I will be adding those to the monthly statistics so we can see how our wireless is being used. I can tell you already it's quite a bit more than I anticipated. So I'll be looking forward to making some comparisons from month to month. And then our physical material circulation is down from 2016, but about steady from 2015, so nothing really not great news to report there, and we're flat on Overdrive, which we have been for several years now.
Alrighty, then we'll move on to the next librarian's report of the introduction and programming from April.
I'm April Eide. I started at the New Ulm Library on May 15th, and I think I had a chance to meet most of you, so I'm glad to meet the rest of you today. I can tell you a little bit about myself. I came here from the West Fargo Public Library, where I was their assistant director. And I grew up in the southern part of Minnesota, so I'm glad to be back in this area. I've been doing a lot of training with various staff in the library, from circulation to programming, which will be my main areas of focus at the library. But then I've been getting training on all of the other little pieces of the day-to-day in the library as well. So that's been really great. The staff have all been very welcoming, and Chris has been great with training. For upcoming programs at the library, in June we have the Summer Book Buzz event, which is next Monday, June 12th at 6:30. Our rep from Penguin Random House will be coming and talking about some of the books that people can be excited about that are coming out in the upcoming months. And then we've got an Introduction to Ancestry Library Edition, which Chris will be teaching on Wednesday, June 14th. And we're doing that in the morning before the library opens so that people can use the public computers there for that session. We've got 2 Concert in the Parks coming up on Monday, June 19th and Monday, June 26th. Those will be in German Park. The first one will be the Porch Lights, and the second will be Bee Balm Field. So I'm really excited to attend those and learn how those programs go as well. We've got our monthly book groups will continue through the summer. And then on Tuesday, June 22nd, we've got Noon Tunes featuring Ian Kimmel and the Herd. Can I answer any questions about programming?
So there was one correction I see that for tonight, so it's Thursday, June 8th is the book discussion on the Shack.
Correct.
It's not Tuesday, is indicated in the minutes here.
That's correct.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, can you give us an update on the Overdrive? Or a presentation, actually.
Last month, it was indicated that you'd like to know a little bit more about Overdrive. So this is an overview of what has happened. We launched this service in May of 2011. It's a collaborative effort through Traverse de Sioux Library Cooperative. For us, it's funded at the county level because it's a better deal if the 5 public libraries get together. So we've broken it out based on library card numbers, and New Ulm is paying just over $2,000, and it goes incrementally down from that. The New Ulm Library pays the entire fee, and then we're reimbursed by the other 4 county libraries. So the total cost is $3,000 for the county. The total cost for the region is $30,000. $20,000 of that is used to purchase materials. $10,000 is for the maintenance fees that go directly to Overdrive. So if you count the 9 counties, that is $3,000 for all of us except for Blue Earth County, and based on their population, they pay $6,000.
So does that fee stay the same, or has it been notching up incrementally, or?
It hasn't. The annual contract runs January through December, 2 years at a time. It's an automatic renewal, and will stay at the same rate. We've been this rate since the beginning. We have no indication that it will go up. Our current contract runs out the end of this year, and we have heard back from Overdrive that it will be an automatic renewal if we continue January 1 at the same rate.
You mean, when you're talking about region, is that the TDS region? or-
Correct. That's the 9-county TDS region.
Yep.
We don't actually purchase anything you can hold on to. What we're purchasing is a license. So it's one license, one checkout, just like a book on the shelf is, you pull that off and check it out, it's not available for anybody else. That's the setup that we have with Overdrive. There are various types of licenses when we do purchase for ebooks. Some are no restrictions, as in once we've purchased the license, we have that ebook for the length of our time with Overdrive. As long as we pay our annual fee, we will continue to have that ebook. However, they have different setups based on publishers. So another type of license is 52 checkouts or 24 months. Another one is 26 checkouts, and then you have to purchase another license. And then there's also 12 months. Those are the most typical, and it really is set by the publishers. There are no restrictions as such for e-audiobooks. However, they are more expensive typically than the license fee for ebooks. So as I said, it's no restrictions doesn't mean we have the item forever. If we were to cancel our contract with Overdrive, we would lose our ebooks and e-audiobooks. If we were to switch to the other major vendor, which is 3M, there's a couple others out there, but 3M is the one that's most popular with other libraries, we would lose our current collection with Overdrive. So we're in with Overdrive for a number of years. It's not a serious topic of discussion among the library's directors to switch, and we simply don't have the funding to add a 3M onto our current collection of Overdrive. Now, when you're talking about price, typically items run from $9.99 to $109 and everywhere in between. I have an example of The Radium Girls, which is a new nonfiction title that someone wanted the e-audiobook. It's $109. I suggested that we not purchase that. I wasn't convinced that that was going to check out a lot, although we would have it for the life of our time with Overdrive. I simply thought that was a lot of money for one nonfiction
what,
title.
These costs then are in addition to the license cost?
So what we're paying, we pay $30,000 to Overdrive per year, and that's from the region. $20,000 of that is content credit. So everything that we purchase, the license that we purchase, come out of that $20,000.
Okay. So it basically you set up a blanket and then you just keep pulling from that fund
Yes.
until the money's gone.
Till the money's gone. And we do receive typically donations from various libraries. In fact, this library board a couple of years ago donated $2,500 to Overdrive to purchase books at the end of the year.
And then that would be specifically for our library or for, that goes into the big kitty anybody can pull from it?
That goes into the big kitty.
Okay.
Yep, it is a collective effort. So a number of libraries every year contribute. Friends groups contribute. It goes to the greater TDS region. So for the Radium Girls, you see the Overdrive audiobook is $109. There are no restrictions on that, meaning that as long as we continue with Overdrive, we'll have that item available for checkout. You could buy the CD from Ingram, which is our vendor. So we would buy the actual CD and put it on our shelf. We get a discount, so we'd pay about $25 for that CD. A CD for you to purchase from Amazon would be just over $30. And then if you were to go on Audible, which is one of the most popular e-audiobook vendors for the public, you would pay $31.50. However, they do have subscription rates for folks. So, for example, if you have a subscription where you get one e-audiobook every month, it's about $15 for you to continue month to month with Audible.
So any indication why the Overdrive book would be so much more than all those others?
I have a lot of theories. You know, the e-world is new, and I think publishers are sorting it out with libraries. They aren't inclined to make it necessarily reasonable as far as cost for public libraries at this point. Because it's many, many uses over the life of a subscription. And yes, we've gotten to the point where it's just business as usual when we purchase a physical book at a discounted rate, but we haven't reached that point with the electronic items. So if you look at the ebook for Radium Girls, no restrictions, $27. A hardcover that we would purchase from our vendor, about $15. A hardcover for you to purchase from Amazon is $19, and a Kindle book, the e-book for just a person on the street, would pay $17 for Kindle. Now that price for ebooks has gone up over time. There's been some court cases related to electronic books, and so you're seeing a higher cost for electronic books for the public to purchase. I showed this presentation to our acquisitions librarian who purchases our Overdrive materials, and she brought up a great point. So I've put it here on a slide. Gone Girl is a great example of some of the challenges that we have with ebooks. When it was new, the ebook of Gone Girl was $95 for one license. Because of the demand around the TDS region, she purchased 5 licenses. So she spent almost $500 on 5 licenses of Gone Girl. When she looks at her physical book collection, every month she gets only about $1,000 to spend on physical books. So she spent almost half of what that would be on one book, 5 licenses. So it's a real challenge to decide how to spend the money that we're given.
In the statistics page, you showed that our overdrive has been basically staying flat.
Correct.
So, I mean, I suppose you could utilize that as part of your data for making a decision as to whether to expend the money or not.
Yes. We have not been expending anything beyond our $2,000 that we submit every year. I know you donated $2,500 a couple of years ago, but last year we did not add any more than what we were required to pay to maintain our annual subscription. So continuing on Gone Girl, the physical book cost $25, and pretty much every library in the region had a copy, so 30 plus copies that could be transferred around pretty easily through our courier system. And now, as of June 1st of this year, an Overdrive license, rather than $95, now costs $45. So there are just a lot of things in play when we think about how to make Overdrive, how to maximize Overdrive for the customers. Looking at the collection, as of May 27th, about 8,300 titles. 15% of the purchases are audiobooks. 85% of them are ebooks. And we did purchase 10 videos a number of years ago just to try that out. They weren't popular. We did not continue, but they were part of the purchasing a number of years ago. And if you look at how we've broken down by age group, 61% of purchases are adult fiction, and the rest is split evenly between adult nonfiction, young adult, and junior titles. When I checked on May 27th, 26% of the collection was checked out. I thought it would be higher. But 15% of our purchases, as I mentioned before, were audiobooks. 30% are circulations, and 34% of our holds are for audiobooks. So it's a growing market, and we're seeing that in the literature as well. There's an October 2016 article in USA Today that said between 2012 and 2015, sales of downloaded audio increased nearly 85%, and that the number of audiobook titles that are actually being published every year is continuing to rise. So in 2011, there were 7,200 American audiobooks published. In 2015, that was 35,500. So it is a growing market. Last year, so this would be 2015, 84% of audiobook sales were downloads, where 16% were actually the CDs themselves. So still, when you look at all of the books that are sold, 75% of them are still the physical books. 17% are ebooks, and 3.3% are audiobooks. So it's a small market, but it is a growing market, and we're continuing to keep an eye on it. And you'll notice, those of you who use Overdrive, we're purchasing more e-audiobooks. Not only because there's no, we don't lose it, it doesn't drop off after 26 checkouts or 2 years. We keep it for the life of Overdrive, but because we're seeing more demand for it. 74% of our total purchases are adult titles, and 84% of our checkouts are for adult titles. And this is when I looked at the end of May. I took a look historically at New Ulm versus Fairmont, which is very similar to us in the Traverse des Sioux region as far as size. And then I looked at the biggest library in the system, which is Mankato, just to see, because I've been saying we've been flat in our checkouts on Overdrive, and so has Martin County. As you see here, we're in blue, Martin County is in red, and this is just the Fairmont branch. We've been staying very flat if you look at January through May checkouts from 2014 to the present. But if you look at Mankato, they've grown 38% since 2014. And now their electronic materials account for 7.25% of their total circulation. New Ulm's electronic materials account for 5% of our total checkouts. I've asked the director and assistant director what their secret is. We're still getting a handle on it. I don't know. I thought perhaps we needed more money, but then I see that only 26% of our items are checked out at a particular time. So there are items available to check out. However, if you look at our newest materials, there are holds, and can be a very long list of holds for the most popular items. And so that's when Betty decides whether she's going to purchase another license. When we look at how we developed this collection, historically it was purchased by 4 selectors. I selected the adult nonfiction, and before me it was my predecessor, Larry Halafsa. Betty Roiger has been purchasing adult fiction from the beginning. Jenny Trashensky in Martin County has been doing young adult. And then we've had a couple of folks, most recently Megan Carew in Watonwan County, purchasing the junior material. We decided, based on some conversations at the library director level, to change the focus of, we decided we no longer, or we shouldn't try to mimic a physical collection. We don't have the funding to mimic a physical collection. Based on what we see in the percentage of items that are checked out that are adult, we need to focus our collection on adult fiction. And so we're shifting more funding to that, and we're having one person purchase everything with input from the rest of us. So Betty Roiger has taken on all of the purchasing, and it's going okay so far, but it's kind of too soon to tell. We just had a meeting in April. We're going to meet again in September, see if changing this focus changes our numbers, if we can increase our circulation. It's important to note that when I say we're not trying to mimic a physical collection, it's because we can't continue to maintain series in Overdrive. We can't continue to purchase those materials that are 12 months or 52 checkouts, or we would be spending all of our money on backlist items and not purchasing anything new. So we do hear from people occasionally who want an entire series, and we had it perhaps at one point, but they've dropped out because they've checked out 26 times. We've decided we no longer can continue to purchase more licenses for that item because we need to purchase the newest things. And increasing the amount of money provided by each library for Overdrive is not a popular sentiment among the TDS librarians. We are happy to help patrons become familiar with Overdrive. Coming up on Tuesday, June 13th at 6:30, Jan and I will be conducting a class, bring your device, learn about the app. We're also available for one-on-one sessions with by appointment. We ask that you call our reference department at 359-8335. If you're new to Overdrive, it can take about 45 minutes to set it up. So we ask for a reservation so that we have the time to dedicate to you to make sure that when you leave that you're ready to go with Overdrive. And then the staff is continuing to learn about Overdrive. The newest thing is Libby. It's an app created by Overdrive, so now we have 2 apps to work with, and we'll be talking about that at the session on Tuesday as well, and then we'd be happy to set up a one-on-one time for people new to Overdrive, or if you've been using the Overdrive app and you want to learn about Libby, we'd be happy to sit down with you and walk you through Libby as well. That is a brief overview of Overdrive. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
When a physical book is checked out, let's say you're checking it out, purchase the book and for the first year it goes well and then it starts to die off. Does the Overdrive kind of tend to follow that? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and you will see that. However, what we've tended to notice with the more popular items, say the Gone Girl, there will still be holds because there's only 1 license for all 9 counties, or 5 licenses for all 9 counties, rather than 30 physical books that can circulate more quickly. And so those holds will last, 2 years.
Okay.
And unfortunately, what we've come across is some of those that are a year-long license, there will be so many holds that that's eaten up an entire year. And so
do
then
you
we
find
just,
that those people then have decided to get the physical book rather than waiting, and then when their turn comes up, they no longer need it then?
we encourage people, if it's a long hold list, to get the physical book. In fact, I wrote an article recently about that and made note of that. I don't look to see how many patrons have an hold on the Overdrive book and have a hold on the physical book. I just haven't taken the time to look at that. It's not a quick report to run. I would physically have to go back and forth, so I just haven't done that.
So can they then go online if they got the physical one and read it, then they can go back online and unhold the Overdrive?
Yes. Yes. And vice versa. You could go in and physically cancel your hold on the book if you received the ebook.
How long does the book stay on the device?
It's 3 weeks. Yeah, and you can check out up to 5 items and place 5 items on hold. And it is to the minute. It will drop off your device. It's
And is there like a renew with the physical books?
it doesn't work like a physical book. You'll have to recheck it out. It will drop off, and you have to go in and.
So if there's nobody holding it, you can get it right back.
Correct.
But if it's hold, then you go to the bottom of the line, right?
Correct. Yes.
If you get an ebook and, like, I'll finish a book in a day or two, can they somehow send the book back so that it can go out sooner than the 3 weeks?
Absolutely. There is a return feature for all items.
Okay.
In pulling this together, was there any data you came across that surprised you?
I think the biggest surprise was that less than a third of the collection was checked out. What I use Overdrive, and I guess I'm like maybe most of the public. We want the newest stuff, and that's what's checked out. You can look at pages and pages of Overdrive materials to check out 8,000 items worth, but I go to the first 3 or 4 pages, and if I don't see anything, I know it's older, and I'm not interested, unless I'm interested in a specific book for a book group. But I want the newer items as well. And I guess I must be a pretty typical patron.
Is there any sense that you got from analyzing this data that there's any advantage to, in addition to what you're doing on Tuesday, doing any other kinds of promotions to make folks aware of Overdrive that maybe aren't aware of it, or greater utilization of it?
And I think that's an excellent point. We can't do enough promotion of this service. There are studies across the country that say that a great portion of library patrons don't even know that libraries provide ebooks. So we continue to talk about it in the newspaper. Have this class. Maybe we could do the class once in a while, but we're posting it on Facebook. We're putting it in our newsletter. We need to try to look at all of the avenues that we have to get the word out about it.
You ever get the comments like I've had, I don't know, 6, 7 times? Within a few years, we won't have any physical books. You ever hear that?
Yes, and in fact, if you had asked me a few years ago, I might have said the same thing. But studies are showing that brick and mortar independent bookstores are coming back, that physical book publishing is increasing, that ebooks are decreasing. This electronic audiobook is, in the electronic world, what they're seeing an increase in, but the physical is holding its own. So no, I don't see us switching the great bulk of our budget from physical books.
I think too that if you get a controversial book, it's harder to have a good book burning with the ebook. All right, any other questions for Chris? All right,
Thank you.
we'll be moving on to discussion of the 2018 budget, which we kind of started last month, didn't we, Chris? And then, so we'll get a little more in depth because I think it's next month that we, the July 13th meeting that we have to have the budget for approval. So on page 35 is the, is a budget discussion draft with the budget behind it. So, Chris, do you want to kind of lead into it?
Sure. That's on page 35. As I mentioned last month, City Finance Department has discretion over quite a few of the line items. Nicole has indicated that we'll be expecting a 2.5% increase in our wages and 12% increase in our health insurance. So I did make those adjustments in the draft. I typically don't, but Nicole is in her first full year as finance director, and so she's given us some early numbers. The proposed increase at Traverse de Sioux will be I'm proposing our most significant increase of all. They're looking at a 5.45% increase for us, which translates to $1,566. I'm recommending very small increases on office supplies, communications, subscriptions and memberships, and sales tax, just so that it's reflecting what's currently happening. These items have stayed pretty flat over the last few years, and costs of office supplies are going up. And what I'm seeing this year is we're going to be a little over budget in our office supplies. So I kind of want to make a little adjustment so that won't happen next year. Now, when we look at going over in one line, not a big deal. We look at the entire picture. But if I know this early that this is probably what's going to happen, I'd like to budget for it in 2018.
On the flip side, though, are there any areas where you can see decreases because of reduced spending?
No, I have a really difficult time. If you look at something like general supplies, we're low this year, but other years we're not. That's one of those, it depends on what happens. Same with the contractual maintenance building. We're under this year. Last year we were quite a bit over because of the sewer project. I really hesitate to decrease those lines because I know in previous years we've been a little bit over. Just because we're under budget this year doesn't mean we won't be over budget next year.
So you simply wait for a trend, more or less, of a few years.
Yes, I did a couple of years ago decrease our computer budget a little bit because it just seemed like a trend, as you said, that we weren't spending as much as was budgeted. And the same with the supplies for the processing of materials. That at one point, if I'm not mistaken, it was upwards of 4,500, and now we're under 4,000. So I did decrease that, and slowly I've brought that back up a little bit. So what I'm proposing in this draft is an overall increase of 2.9% in expenditures. Now, this doesn't include the utilities, which I really have no indication. That's something that the finance department manages as well. But in those items, the personnel, the health insurance, and then the lines where the library board actually has input, it'd be a 2.9% increase. That's $23,300. And then I did include a capital outlay expense of $10,000 for carpeting in the main building. We're really getting to the point where we need to look at the flooring, particularly on the stairs. I've talked about this in the past few months, getting someone, a vendor, to come in and take a look. How can we do this over 3 to 5 years and get the flooring replaced? But, we just heard from Elwood that, maybe you want to look at the car and the elevator. So there are some things to consider big picture wise. And then what I need to do is get approval from you at the next meeting, because the preliminary budget needs to be to the finance department for review at the end of July. And then it goes to the city council in September, and it won't be finalized until December.
All right, any other questions for Chris then on the general overview right now? All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the action items. We've got 3 resolutions to handle today. The first one is on page 45. It's resolution number 2017-19. First reading and adoption on authorizing the removal of the tree on library property. In preparation for landscaping around the Wanda Gog sculpture and installation of a new sign identifying New Ulm Public Library, the landscaping subcommittee recommends that the tree nearest the sculpture be removed. The Wanda Gog Monument Committee, Inc. is working with the local master gardener to design the rectangular green area around the sculpture, and the landscaping subcommittee will review the proposal before it is presented to the library board. In addition, the landscaping subcommittee will present a recommendation for signage to designate New Ulm Public Library that would be affixed to the library building above the panel of windows near the sculpture. And there's pictures in here indicating that. We'll get to that after. And Chris has displayed a picture of the tree in question on the screen. Both of these projects would be more successful if the tree were removed. The tree's roots are exposed, making it difficult for staff to maintain the lawn and impeding the landscape design. The tree would also be a visual barrier to the new sign. And the tree's upper branches overhang the roof of the library and create maintenance issues. The city street department has indicated that it would remove the tree within a month of receiving authorization, and there would be no cost for this service. So, shown is the picture there. The tree is really, it doesn't add to any function per se. It doesn't provide any additional shade. There's plenty of shade provided by the boulevard trees. And so overall, there's really no disadvantages of removing it. Now, have you gotten any feedback from anybody? Because I know we kind of...
That was going to be my question,
Okay.
too.
I haven't received any feedback on this. I did write an article for the Journal
Right.
noting that this would be under consideration, and did not hear anything from the public.
You might hear something once we start cutting the tree down.
Too late.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So therefore,
Vince, I'm 100% in favor of taking a tree down, but I wanted to ask that same question too, because
okay, so then I will entertain a motion for authorizing the removal of the tree on the library property.
so moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second authorizing the removal of the tree on the library property. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Second resolution, number 2017-20, first reading and adoption for awarding the bid for New Ulm Public Library sign project. 2 quotes were received for designing, creating, and installing a sign designating New Ulm Public Library on Broadway Street, and the Landscaping Committee recommends awarding the bid to the low bidder, which is Sid's Signs on Broadway. And Chris has shown on the screen there is where the rendition of what the sign would look like and its location. In summer of 2016, the concrete structure that designated New Ulm Library and faced Broadway Street was raised to accommodate the exterior sanitary sewer construction. The landscaping subcommittee indicated a desire to install replacement signage on the building rather than create a separate structure. The sign would be affixed to the main building above the panel of windows near the Wandagog sculpture. The sign would be 12-inch cast aluminum letters with brushed aluminum finish with the words New Ulm Public Library mounted on black aluminum. The letters would be 1-inch thick. The sign would be identical to the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame sign above its entrance, except that it would be 12-inch letters, and the Hall of Fame's letters are 10 inches. The quotes received are Sid's Signs on Broadway, $22.46. And this does not include the installation permit required by the city. Sid indicated he would charge $110 to obtain the permit, but the library director can obtain the permit for $40. So we'll take that on as part of this. And the other quote was Printware Graphics for $47.85. The installation permit required by the city is $50 and is included in that quote. Quite a price differential between the two. Funding for the project would come out of the library's donation and memorials fund 212-101000 invest pool operating, which has a balance of $10,000, $160.02. So, it's pretty much straightforward. The Sid Signs bid came in under half of what Printware Graphics was. It did not include the permit, so there will be an extra $40 in there, which as part of this, which would be the library director would take care of that. So I will entertain a motion to award the bid for New Ulm Public Library sign project to the low bidder, which in this case is Sis Signs.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for awarding the bid for the sign. Any further discussion, questions, concerns?
Yes, Chris, how is the sign to be affixed to the building? Is it drilled and bolted into the side of the building, or?
Yes.
And would it be all one piece, all the words and letters on one piece that's, it's not
Yes.
individual words attached and? Okay.
Yes, individual letters attached to one long piece of aluminum.
Okay. And,
Go ahead.
oh, excuse me, Dave. The permit, explain the purpose of the permit. The city charges a city department a fee to put a sign on the building that,
Yes,
really?
that is correct.
Couple minute work.
Okay.
This past weekend, I showed this to a friend and my brother, and they both asked the exact same question. Now, granted, we were at my house, they weren't at the library, they weren't looking at it, the tree is still there, but they both asked, how come the sign is not centered in the building over the entrance?
It's not over the entrance because there are windows right above.
Okay? So it wouldn't fit there then, is what you're saying? All right.
That overhang, that's the nonfiction area if you're actually in the building.
Mhm.
If you go to the right on the picture, You eventually get to where, if you're upstairs in the young adult area, there's a window, big window overhang.
That's right.
Yep, and the door
right.
is right
Yeah.
below you. There are other places to put that sign, absolutely. You could go to the right of the wooden doors if you wanted to. This is what I brought to the landscaping subcommittee, and I don't have a
Yeah,
preference.
I think it's as good a location as any.
Yep.
But that's not what the vote is on. The vote is on awarding the bid, not the placement. So we can worry about that at the time. Did they give any indication turnaround time, lead time?
No.
Okay. So, all right, any other further questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. And now we got one final one. Resolution number 2017-21, approving acceptance and expenditure of $1,000 donation. This is the first reading and adoption. The library requests that the library board approve the acceptance and expenditure of $1,000 donation for the purchase of books. These funds were donated by Mike and Gigi Nelson Porter on May 31st, 2017, to be distributed as follows: 50% for children's, juniors, young adult books, and 50% for adult books. It is expected that these funds will be expended by December 2017. Note, in 2010, the New Ulm Public Library Board approved resolution number 2010-10, approving expenditures of donations received as designated or memorial, which states as follows: for all individual donations $500 or more, the library director will request authority within 90 days from the library board to expend those funds for the designated or memorial purposes identified by the donor. So, I will entertain a motion for approving acceptance and expenditure of this $1,000 donation as indicated in the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Since there's nothing else on the agenda then, we will adjourn the meeting. Sorry, we went over a little bit this month. Try and make it up next month. Thanks, everyone.